Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas and techniques to help you lower the stress in your life. And today I've got Katie Barngrover, and she's a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and former math and science teacher who has spent years helping women uncover the hidden stressors, draining their energy, disrupting their sleep, and keeping them in a constant go mode. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, what inspired you to do this type of work since you're like math and science teacher to nutrition practitioner?
Yes. Health and wellness have always been a part of my life. My mother was a health and PE teacher when I was growing up, and so we've always had healthy living built into my family since I was little. And it was an interest that I had as well, but I didn't want to be a health teacher. So I detoured my father's an accountant, and so that led me into math teaching was the joint thing. But I always wanted to be part of health. I wanted to go to medical school out of college, realized I didn't want to be a pain or a prescription dealer. I wanted to help people heal. And the world wasn't ready for that. Oh my gosh, it's been 30 years ago, if I can believe it. So I detoured through teaching. I did some other things and then realized that it was time. The world is ready to take control. People are more willing to change their behaviors in order to help themselves heal. And that's what I really was aligned to do. And then I also had some health issues myself that poked me in that direction as well. So those things together combined into it was time to help the world, help women feel better in their own bodies so that they can do the work God has sent them here to do.
Now, a lot of us think that stress is a mindset issue, and if we deal with that, our stress will go away. But you tend to think differently. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think stress can be partially a mindset issue, but I also think that stress is a biology issue. There are lots of things that can happen in our body biologically that add to the stress load in our bodies. And if all we try to do is manage the stress at work and manage the stress at home, we may be leaving a lot of pieces that are overloading our body on the table that we could remove and make those work and family issues easier to tolerate, easier to deal with. Some of those things have to do with digestion, have to do with hormones that are out of balance. An overbusy schedule, of course, poor sleep is going to raise our stress level. There's just lots of things that we don't always pin to stress when we typically think of stress in our day-to-day lives.
Now, I know stress is a big thing for women my age or around my age. Can we talk a little bit about sleep? Why
Mhm.
does it become so difficult?
There's a lot of rhythms underneath sleep that can influence us. Blue light from screens, typically, but even from our indoor overhead lights, really disrupt our circadian patterns. And often in our culture, we are on screens to wind down at night, which is actually one of the worst things we can do for our sleep. Eating late can be another really big issue for us, especially as we age, our digestion slows. And the longer that we have food in our stomachs over the night hours, the less time that our body has to deal with immune issues and to repair tissues and to consolidate memories. Some of those issues will raise cortisol in our bodies at night, which makes us wake up. And so, those are two pieces that really make it difficult for us to sleep. That lingering to-do list is another one that as we progress through life, as women, we like to take on the world. We like to have so many things that we have to get done. Part of it makes us feel good when we're serving others. Part of it's just our culture. But that lingering to-do list where our brains can't turn it off at night also can affect our sleep at night. And then hormone imbalances. As we go through life and our hormones change through perimenopause and menopause, those hormones are part of signaling that helps us to sleep. And when they are out of balance, which can be a natural phenomenon as we age, but when they're out of balance, they can drastically affect our sleep. And so when I'm looking to help women sleep better, I want to look at a lot of root causes, a lot of places where we can change behaviors that can help support your sleep better through the night and help you wake up more rested.
Now, with the blue light, I'm just going to back this up here. Now, with blue light, which means we're watching TV or what have you, how many hours or how much time should we give ourselves, get ourselves away from that to get a proper night's sleep?
At least an hour. But in a picture perfect world, we are blocking our eyes from excessive blue light after sunset. So in the winter, that is significantly earlier than it is during the summer. Here's the biology that goes behind that. Our evolution was such we were outside all the time, and our development came and our patterns came from the sun's rays. When the sun would hit us in the morning, we would send blue light into our eyes, into these cells called melanopsin cells, and those would basically reset our daily clock for the day. And it would say, okay, we're ready for morning. Here's the things we have to do. It's time to get up. It's time to move. It's time to hunt. It's time to eat. And then as the day progressed, the sunlight became more intense, invigorated the bodies more, helped us be more productive. And then as the afternoon waned, the blue light became less intense. And as we approached dusk, it signaled that significant decrease in blue light signaled our bodies that it was time to rest, that it's time to shut things down, and that the nighttime processes are supposed to begin. The trouble with screens for us, and like I said, even overhead lights, even bright lights in our houses, is that they produce the same wavelength as the sun does between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So it's a very intense rays, very intense form of blue light. And when we get that at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, well, really even after dark, we're sending the signal to our body that it's still the middle of the day, but it's not. So our internal clock, those melanopsin cells, are really confused about what's going on. Is it time for nighttime processes? Is it time for daytime processes? Should I be really alert and getting things done? Is it time to wind down and repair? The poor brain, the poor cells in our body are really not sure what's going on. So in a picture perfect world, you are going outside in the sunlight near dusk without glasses, without contacts, so that you don't have any interference between the blue light rays that are coming from the sun that are very dimmed at that time to your eyeballs. Then when you go back inside to where we have all of our fake lights in there, you're going to put on some very quality blue light blockers so that you keep all of that blue light away from your eyes so you can still do the things you have to do after dark. And then you completely eliminate screens an hour before bedtime. Eliminating screens does two things. One, the blue light is a big part of sleeping well. We don't want that blue light to trick the body into thinking it's still time to be awake. But also, screens, especially if you're on your phone thinking YouTube, thinking social media, thinking games that don't ever end, they're designed to keep you on there and importantly, to create a fight-flight response that makes you want to stay engaged. We have to know what the next thing is. That's an evolutionary response that says, I have to be alert, which is kind of the opposite of sleep. And so if you want good sleep, the picture perfect thing to do is to put blue light blockers on at dusk and to put all screens away, the TV, your phone, iPads, all of it, away 1 hour before you're ready to turn out the light and go to sleep.
And now what about digestion? How much time would you give yourself before eating? And what about snacking before you go to bed?
Before you go to bed, ideally, your last meal or any caloric anything, drink, snack, anything, is 3 hours before bedtime. And it should be more protein fat focused than carbohydrate focused. So it's not the pint of ice cream, it's dinner that's relatively well balanced on your plate. The reason for that is twofold. Like I was saying earlier, we need digestion to be completed before sleep because digestion slows when you're sleeping. So what should take 3 hours will stretch out to maybe 6 hours overnight. And that by itself isn't a problem. The problem is that your body has to then decide, am I digesting food? Am I consolidating memories? Am I activating the immune system to take care of these little cells that are getting out of control or this bacteria that's here? Am I repairing cells and tissues? All of those things have to take a back seat when digestion extends into the sleep hours. And so that's another part of why we really want digestion to finish or consumption to finish 3 hours before bed so that you have 3 hours to digest the food and you don't delay those really important critical things that happen over sleep. But if you're eating sugar things 3 hours before, you'll find that you're starving an hour before. And so we have to not just stop eating 3 hours before, but make sure that we're giving the body the tools it needs to have fuel without having blood sugar spikes and therefore cortisol crashes overnight.
Now you also mentioned this, our to-do list. And I don't know, we always tend to push through and we ignore our bodies a lot of times. What can you say about that?
I think we often feel empowered to get lots of things done, but I think we forget that our health is just as important as the little things on the to-do list. And so if you're a to-do list person and you feel most successful when everything's checked off at the end of the day, I would suggest that you prioritize the to-do list in the morning with must get dones, would like to get dones, and bonus activities. And then find a way to be happy when all you get done is the must get dones. Sometimes that can be journaling. Sometimes that can be tearing the list off. So all you have is the must get dones, and then it feels good when the list is done. But finding some strategies that help you understand that those little bitty things that occupy brain space, but really don't move forward towards your goals as a family, your goals in your own personal life, your goals at work. They're busy tasks that we like to accomplish, but the world doesn't end if they don't get accomplished. Those are really good things to let go, to tear that list off at night before you go to bed. Say, okay, these are tomorrow. Here's the list. I put it on the fridge. Now I have a ready-made list for the morning, or at least things that it would be nice to get done. But to prioritize for yourself that you don't throw out the to-do list. I love to-do lists, but we have to understand that it's never ending. There's always something more you can put on there. And so to prioritize what things have to be done for the day before I feel like it's been a success versus how much can I get done in a day? And then also to add on that list, self-care pieces. Turn off the lights or turn off the TVs 1 hour before bed. Is that on your to-do list? If you're a to-do list person, that could be a good one to add.
Absolutely. So for a woman that's doing all these things and she still feels that fatigue and that exhaustion, what are your practical tips to her today?
I found that our diet is one of the largest components of added stressors in our life and one of the largest contributors to our not feeling our best. And even those of us that eat healthy, right? We eat the way the world says we should. We've reduced our saturated fats. We've reduced our meat. We eat mostly lean meats. We increase the vegetables. My gosh, we eat a bowl full of salad every day. We try to stay away from sugar. We try to stay away from alcohol and caffeine. And yet we still just don't feel good. We're not energized after our meals. We have to make sure we have a packet of peanut butter in our purse for everywhere we go, or we just crash and then we get really hangry. If you feel any of those symptoms, whether or not you're eating the perfect diet or not, what I know as a practitioner is that your food is not serving you well, and it's critical to find the balance. Now, in my practice, I work with women on figuring out what foods do not support your unique body. Everybody has some foods that your body really doesn't want you to eat, and many of us eat those because we're told they're healthy. So we have to identify those individually and get rid of those. The other part of my work is to help women identify what foods does your body want that you are not giving it, that would help sustain your energy, that would digest better in your body. And so let's identify those foods that your body is really looking for that you are failing to give it. And when we identify both of those sides of the coin, I find that women's energy increases immensely. Brain fog starts to disappear. Sleep improves. Digestion improves. A lot of the aches and pains, joint pains, past injury sites go away. That perpetual cough that you had forever tends to disappear. There's all kinds of symptoms that we wouldn't pin to food that tends to reduce or disappear when we get your diet matching what your body wants.
Okay, so how would we do that? Would we just keep trying different things, or is there testing that we can get, or
There is testing. So I have a group program called Eat Right for Your Body. And in that program, I offer two tests. They're not mandatory. One is significantly more helpful. The other one is quite helpful. But there's one test for identifying what foods your body doesn't want. And then there's another test for identifying what foods your body does want. And then the program is for 10 weeks to help women figure out how to implement it. Have you ever been given a test result by your doctor and he says, okay, here's the things you got to change? And you're like, great, I'm going to go, I got it. And then a week later, you're going, what did he say? What was I supposed to do with that thing? Life got busy, I don't remember. And then it just all falls out the window and you go back to the things you've always done. So the group program is about here's the things that are going to make you feel the best. Now let me help you implement it into your life so that you can see success from the knowledge you gain from the test results.
What are some of the foods that you find affect women that way?
The interesting part is that they're all different. Now, there's some common ones across the board, and that has to do more with production of them than it does with the individual foods. Dairy, gluten, eggs can be, and corn. But if you think about the production of those in the United States, and I would imagine Canada's pretty similar to this. I know Europe is different, their regulations are quite different. But in our country, corn and wheat or anything with gluten, they are typically covered in pesticides. And so the question is it really gluten or is it the pesticides that are on the grains that are actually bothering us? Hard to know here because it's really hard to get grains that are not covered in pesticides. The question about dairy is that it is pasteurized and homogenized, which means that they've heated it up so much that the proteins have changed. So is it really the dairy or is it the processing? The problem with eggs is that chickens don't detoxify really well. And we give chickens food that is not their natural biological food. And so they get a lot of toxins in their own bodies, and then they pass that into the eggs. So is it really the eggs? I'll add to that that all of the eggs you buy at the grocery store are not fertilized. And when an egg is fertilized, the protein structure changes immensely. So is it really the eggs or is it the way that the poor chickens are treated that they produce the eggs? So those are common themes, but I'm not sure that one, they're not an issue for everybody. And two, I'm not always convinced it's the actual foods. I think it might be sourcing in a lot of those cases. But
Hmm.
then the other foods that I often don't often see, but that could be, there's various vegetables. I've seen broccoli, I've seen chard, I've seen green onions, we've seen almonds, we've seen peanuts, we've seen chia seeds. I've seen there's a lot of chemicals that can cause people problems. Food dyes, of course. White sugar, high fructose corn syrup, honey. I mean, it's the whole gamut. There's 176 foods that I have tested, and no test has ever been the same for any person that I've worked with. They always have a unique combination for their body of foods that really bother them. And that's why we test. In my business, we often have a phrase, test, don't guess. I don't want to just guess. You're welcome to try it. It takes forever because food sensitivities, foods that bother you, can create inflammation for 4 to 12 weeks after you eat that food. And so if you think of how many foods you could give up, well, you have to give it up for 12 weeks to know if that's really a problem. And then if you only do one at a time, that's years worth of exploration before you figure out which foods really bother you. So I would much rather test than guess in that scenario.
Absolutely. So now for someone that is listening and they feel like they're exhausted and they feel they're fatigued, running on empty, what are some small realistic changes that they can make today?
Couple things that come to mind. First one is check your plate. How much healthy fats and quality protein are you actually eating? Most women drastically undereat protein. You should be eating between zero point 0.6 and 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight in order to get adequate protein. Now, that number can vary based on how active you are, based on how well you digest proteins, but most of us in our common American or common standard diet are eating more like zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.4 grams, if even that much per pound of body weight. And then you should be eating fatty meat, not low fat meat. Most of us need substantially more healthy fats in our diet. All of our hormones are built from fats. Many of our vitamins cannot get into our body without fats to transport them. And we are a low fat culture. We're getting out of that. We're starting to shift out of that. But most of us have been trained over decades that fat is the devil. Fat puts fat on your body. Fat causes heart disease. And those were all lies told by a lot of big influence places, which we don't need to dive down that rabbit hole. But so add healthy fats, add healthy proteins. So that's probably place number one. Be really careful to not just add protein without fat. That is another really cautious thing. You can have protein poisoning, can be very detrimental if you don't have enough fat to go with it. So just a caution there. If you're going to increase your protein, make sure you increase your fat. My rule of thumb is you should eat butter, ghee, lard, tallow, any of the animal-based fats. If you must go to plant-based, stick with extra virgin olive oil. Make sure it's in a dark bottle. Make sure it is truly extra virgin. It is not adulterated. Or coconut oil, also organic if you can get it, cold pressed if you can get it. Those are going to be your healthiest fats. The second rule of thumb is if you want to scrape the butter off your plate when you're done eating, you did not eat enough butter. If you get to the end and there's still butter and fat on the end of your plate and you're like, yeah, I like it doesn't taste good anymore, then you found the amount of butter or the amount of fat that your body is actually looking for. Increase your fat, increase your protein.
Okay. So now I understand you have a freebie for the audience today. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I have a list of about 10 recipes to help people begin eating more healthy foods, begin increasing protein, increasing fat in their bodies. And the website to get that is angelwinghealth.com/energy reset recipes. Like I said, it has 10 recipes, breakfast, lunch, I think it's breakfast and dinner, of just ideas that you can use to help increase your protein and healthy fats, but not give up on your vegetables if you still like those.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, and that just
Okay.
help get people started on a better path towards food that makes them feel better.
Okay, Katie, we're going to be wrapping this up. Are there any final words of wisdom from Katie this afternoon?
Final words of wisdom. Pay attention to your sleep. One of the best things that you can do to determine where you need support is to understand your own patterns. Pay attention to when you eat, what you eat, and then 2 hours later, how do you feel? How is your energy? How is your brain fog? You can start looking for patterns in your own life by just tracking the things that you do. So, food is a good one to track. Track your sleep. How many times do you wake up at night? How easy is it to go back to sleep? How many hours of sleep did you get? And how rested do you feel? What were your activities that you were engaged in the 90 to 180 minutes before bedtime? Just tracking can open your eyes to habits that are sabotaging your own health. So I would think start there.
Okay, wonderful, Katie. Well, wherever you're watching or listening to this, I will be adding her information. And if you have any questions, please reach out and ask Katie your questions. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Katie. And
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
I'm going to leave you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life. And I'll see you in the next episode.